Olam. Hayam Rishus Shel Hamayim Berak Hashamayim Vilat Adam Hayam Rishus Shel Hamayim Berak Hashamayim Vilat Adam. O God, my God, I pray that the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart.
We gather today to mourn the loss of Will Krasnow and to give honor to his life. It seems so shocking to be here. Will was just here filling this sanctuary with his voice, a voice filled with spirit and prayer. How can this be? And yet, we are here. We are here to give support and comfort to Will's beloved wife, Marcy, and to his family. We are here to hold one another. Will would take comfort in knowing that we are here in his beloved second home of Temple Beth. Mourning is the price we pay for having the courage to love others. Even in grief, we know that the wonder of human life lies in illness or in pain. Even in our darkest hours, we know that some of our loved ones' light and love will always be with us, bringing comfort and courage, and in the fullness of time, healing and peace. Let us now turn to words from Jewish tradition for comfort and for strength. I offer the words from Psalm 90. O God, you have been attain a heart of wisdom. And Psalm 121. Esa einai el haharim me'ayin yavo Ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim ve'aretz. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going and coming, now and forever. I invite you to join with me in the 23rd Psalm, and it is also an honor to invite back to our Bema cantor Rachel Reef Simpson, who served this community and will sing the Hebrew of this psalm. We can read together. God is my shepherd, I shall not want. Makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, and restores my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house.
Almei menuchot, yenaleini. Nafshi yeshovev, yeshovev, yancheni v'magelei tzedek, yancheni v'magelei tzedek, leman yara ki ata imadi shivtecha umishantecha heima yanacha muni. Taroch lefanai, lefanai, shulchan neged tzorerai, dishanta bashemen roshi, kosireva ya. Achtu v'chesed yerdefuni kol yemei chayai, kol yemei chayai. Veshavti beveit Adonai leorech yamim. Adonai roi lo echsad, Adonai roi lo echsad.
Ellen Kearns from his law firm, Constanzi, and the second will be his brother-in-law, Frank Kaufman, and I'll deliver a eulogy after that.
Good morning. My name is Ellen Kearns, and I was the managing partner of the Boston office, but my current managing partner is Dave. Okay, is Dave Kurtz, and Dave flew in this morning, and we weren't sure he was going to make it, so we have a doubleheader here. I'll just give you a few brief remarks. I met Will in 1980 when he and I attended an ABA committee meeting in Palm Springs, California. It was a gorgeous retreat, and Will and I met each other at CLE meetings and conferences and Mass Bar Association dues. And in January of 2011, I got a call from Will, and he said, could the Boston office use an immigration attorney? I said, why not? But especially one with your skills and background. And I called our managing partner in Atlanta, Neil Wasser, and I said, Neil, you'll love this guy, take him on. And Neil and Will got on really well. They both share many things in common, but mostly their religious beliefs. And so about an hour later, I got a call from Neil. He said, we're going to hire this guy. We're going to bring him on as a partner. He's going to start the immigration department, which he did on April 1st, 2011. About 8 years later, in basketball, he was a great talker, and he loved to talk about life and people. Yesterday, I called Neil Wasser, the CEO of our firm, and I said, can you just give me a few words about Will that I can share with the Temple audience? And he said the following. I heard about Will before I met Will. Ellen Kearns made the introduction of Will to me, and she said, simply, you'll love this guy. And from the first call with Will, I, along with everyone in this firm, had the pleasure of interacting with Will, did the same. They loved this guy. Will was a brilliant immigration lawyer who truly enjoyed his work and helping others. But more than that, he was a genuine old-school partner in the very best sense of that word. His integrity and his presence contributed. Partner call, I could count on comment call. I will miss Will deeply and mourn his loss as we remember the indelible mark his menschness has left on all of us. Dave?
Thank you. And my name's David Kurtz. Will is a brilliant lawyer, just brilliant. And you don't want to bring politics into a situation like this, but one thing we can all agree on is legal immigration into the United States is important, and he took so much pride in what he did, bringing people to legally work here in this country. We talked, and if you knew Will, the man loved to talk about absolutely everything. He would come into your office, and our jobs are so serious and what we do, and we're lawyers. But Will would come in my office, turn off my computer, I'd sit down with him, and it was always a mystery of what was going to be discussed in that day. But I'll tell you, the Celtics just came up. I am so glad they won this championship for him this year. We'd had a lot of talks about that. I sent an email to our whole firm to tell them the news, and people couldn't believe it. And just the responses that we got about the love and the respect that people at our firm had for him, it was beautiful to read. One of the things I shared in that email was that Will was a lot of things, an absolutely brilliant man, not a technological genius. And according to our information technologies help desk, he is the record holder of the all-time most calls to the help desk. So you'd think that these guys would say, whew, phew. No. They said, well, what are we going to do without talking to Will? So, we're so grateful that we're here getting this opportunity to talk about Will. We're going to miss him, and may his memory be a blessing to all of us. Thank you.
Her brother Frank. Several years ago, one of my nieces and her boyfriend, later to be her husband, asked me what was the secret to a long-standing marriage. It just took me a moment to say we help each other. Will was my best supporter, my best friend. He was always dependable and always there for me. We often talked and analyzed life situations together. Sometimes I helped him with the dynamics of a family situation within a case he was working on, and other times he offered legal or workplace advice or other support on a challenge I was facing. It was a special, loving partnership. He was the epitome of hard work hard, do the right thing, and care about others. He was a true mensch, a good person, righteous to the core. This was Will, and this was the Will I met in 1967, just before he went to law school. To this day, I would say ever since I met him, he was stuck to me, always calling and asking me out. He was right by my side from day one, and I was by his side. What he did for others was the most poignant aspect of his personality. His dedication to his legal clients was beyond imaginable. He cared deeply about every case, making every effort to help with everything from immigration to family issues. One day a client called Will crying, explaining how grateful he was for Will's care and attention to his case. It meant he could soon join his family here. He moved his office to the house at the beginning of the pandemic, giving me a closer look at his involvement and deep dedication to the legal world. He started his day early, checking emails that had come in during the night from clients all over the world. Then he went to his computer before breakfast. Labor report and the daily immigration report from the U.S. government to check for updates. Of course, I was still trying to sleep through all this. Instead of going to one of his favorite restaurants in Copley Square for breakfast, he now learned to put something together and carry a tray of food up to his office to continue working. His day was filled with website. Will was involved in so many other civic activities I could hardly keep up with him. In between legal work, he took time to call people in need to see how they were. On Friday nights, he would attend religious services either at Temple Beth David or on live stream. His day would stop and he would pray. He put on his talis and yarmulke and told me he always said a prayer for me. The temple was his second family and meant so much to him. Over the years, he did many Shiva services and services at area nursing homes, always helping others in their time of need. I will never forget how Will carried on with this important work the same week his mother passed away because he was needed. Will's sudden illness felt like a forest of trees fell on me. It hurt my head, broke my heart, and left me paralyzed. I had to get up and get Will medical help. His passing only intensified this feeling. I will love and miss him forever. He was the person who always helped me that I can no longer help.
Thank you, Frank. How can it be that a person is vital and alert one day, and then all of a sudden that person is in a terminal situation? It is hard for us to understand, but that's what happened to our dear husband and friend, Will Krasnow. A month or so ago, Will began to show signs that something was not right. He began to have trouble finding the right words for what he wanted to say. He went to his doctor, who ordered an MRI, and it revealed a large mass in his brain. When that happened, his doctor recommended that Marcy should take him to a hospital to be thoroughly evaluated. They went to the Brigham, and after spending 2 days in the ER due to overcrowding of Boston hospitals, Will was put in a single room in one of the Brigham Towers, glioblastoma, a cancerous brain tumor that was destined to lead to his death. By that time, Will had lost his capacity to communicate. It was extremely frustrating because he would see Marcy or someone he knew, but he was unable to talk with them. Marcy could see the agitation and frustration that Will was experiencing. It often brought him to tears. On occasion, he was able to get out a word or two. He once said the words humane and suffering. Marcy thinks that Will was trying to say that his situation was humane and replete with suffering. As an adult, Will had never spent a single day in a hospital. What a shock it must have been. Carol Westheimer, a former member of our temple, a geriatric specialist and a friend of Marcy's, suggested that Will might appreciate prayer. So I went down to the Brigham on Shabbat afternoon, took my siddur with me, and when I entered his room, Will recognized me, smiled, raised his eyebrows in his own special way. I took out the siddur and began to sing Sabbath songs and parts of the service, including the Shema and the V'ahavta. Will leaned back on his pillow listening to the prayers and smiled at me from time to time. It was a very spiritual moment. I concluded with a Misha Barak prayer that we sing for all those who are ill, and then I placed my hand on his head and invoked God's threefold blessing. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God keep you and bless you. And last Wednesday, October 2nd, he slipped away. Marcy is comforted by the realization that he did not have to endure his frustrating situation for weeks or months on end. But for Marcy, for me, and possibly for all of you, Will's death was so sudden, so quick, we barely had time to absorb it. Marcy thought of Will as a self-made man. He was the son of Louis and Edna Krasnow, who lived in Brookline. Will's father was the manager of movie theaters. Themselves came to the theater to walk down the red carpet to the door. It was a big to-do. Will also had a very special connection to his grandfather, Cantor Max Halpern, who was a renowned cantor at the Blue Hill Avenue Shul, the first house of worship in Roxbury. That tie was evident because Will loved music and he loved singing. Will liked to tell me his experience as a young boy growing up in Brookline. Will's family belonged to Knesset Israel on Harvard Street. Will grew up at the time of a rather famous rabbi at KI, Rabbi Manny Saltzman, who was a wonderful preacher. KI required its bar mitzvah students to attend religious school and services 6 days a week. Will was somewhat conflicted about this requirement because he loved sports, and Hebrew school was offered in the way of his enjoyment of basketball, baseball, and tennis. On many of the afternoons prior to his bar mitzvah, he would put on his baseball uniform, go out to the diamond to play with his buddies, and then they would hurry to KI for afternoon Hebrew and other subjects, but not without a quick stop at Irving's, the famous candy and toy store in Brookline. Fortified by sweets, sometimes he couldn't help from misbehaving in Hebrew class, an observant Jew. Will told me that on the day of his bar mitzvah, Rabbi Saltzman says, "Krasnow, you hit a home run. You'll go far if you keep studying Torah." Will did go far, but not as a Hebrew scholar as Rabbi Saltzman had hoped. Will attended Brookline High School, where he excelled in sports and academics. He was a born leader. They all knew Will. Brookline High, he spoke fluent French. Will went on to study for his undergraduate degree at Boston University. He was a member of Tau Kappa Epsilon fraternity. One night, Marcy Kaufman was in her dorm at BU, and a female friend of hers encouraged her to come to a party at a fraternity. Marcy looked askance at fraternity life and was not particularly interested in going to the party, but her friend prevailed upon her. So she put on a lovely pink dress and went to the fraternity party. Once there, she noticed a tall, nice-looking guy who was struggling with filling a pipe with tobacco. Pipes were popular at that time, and Will was doing his best. But he soon came over to talk with her, and from that moment on, Will was smitten. It was love at first sight. He was determined to pursue this beautiful, intelligent girl for as long as it took. After earning his undergraduate degree at BU cum laude, Will went on to Boston College Law School. In those years as a law student at BC, you had no way of knowing how you were doing academically until the year that only the very few top students attained. As I think about Will, my favorite phrase in the entire Torah comes to mind, the words that God uses when he first challenges Abraham to make a covenant. In the 12th chapter of Genesis, God says to Abraham, "V'hiyeh bracha," be a blessing, be a moral example by serving your family and other people. If you do this, God said, "Kol hamishpachot ha'adamah," all the families of the earth will be blessed through your example. With these words, God was asking Abraham to dedicate his life to his family and to all the families of the earth by being a moral exemplar, by serving them. Will Krasnow lived his life according to this Abrahamic belief: service to God through service to others. After graduation from law school, Will became a clerk to Justice Alfred H. Joslin of the Rhode Island Supreme Court. It was a tremendous opportunity to learn about the law. He then got a job at Raytheon and worked as a human resources counsel for them. While there, he became interested in labor law and in immigration. Raytheon was often in need of engineers from Europe. Bringing over a number of European engineers and their families all at one time could be very challenging because of the changing visa and immigration regulations. Will became an expert in that aspect of the law. For a 21-year period, Will was an invaluable in-house lawyer for Raytheon. From there, Will was recruited to be a partner in the law firm of Hinckley, Allen, and Snyder, where he continued to specialize in immigration law. And 13 years ago, Will joined the national firm of Constanzi, Brooks, Smith, and Prophet, where he worked up to the very day until about 4 weeks ago, when he was suddenly taken to the Brigham. Will's developed on their side, they had an excellent chance of overcoming the obstacles of immigrating to America. Will was so dedicated, so skilled, that he was recognized as a top immigration lawyer by Boston Magazine and was named 14 times as Massachusetts super lawyer in the field of immigration. He was knowledgeable, thorough, cared deeply about his clients, and he never took shortcuts. He wrote numerous articles that were published on a national level in which he shared his vast experience and knowledge. Will was also committed to serving his community, the town of Norwood. He and Marcy lived in Norwood for over 50 years. He was appointed by Governor Mike Dukakis to be the commissioner of the Norwood Zoning Board of Appeals, and he was a town meeting member from 1979 to the present. His most outstanding contribution to his town was that he helped establish the Town of Norwood Personnel Board, where he served as chairman from 2004 to 2008. A town personnel board is responsible for designing and defining job descriptions, salaries, and procedures for town personnel, and for overseeing the hiring and regulation of town employees. It is a very important board in any town in Massachusetts. The whole town of Norwood should be very grateful to get it done. The third area of service that Will fulfilled was here at Temple Beth David, where he was president of the congregation from 1982 to 84, and a second term as co-president with Phil Weinstein from 1991 to 93. Will was a great temple president. Like Abraham, he led by example. He was a faithful attendee at Friday night services. He enrolled in numerous adult education programs. When someone was needed to conduct a Shiva service in a house of mourning, he often answered the call, and he was an important member of our temple choir. When congregants observed how Will was such a committed Jew, they could not but admire him and try to model themselves after him. Will also had a bit of schmuck to the words, Melech HaKol Haaretz Mekadesh Yisrael, to lift all of us to a higher level of worship. Will also served as chairman of our social action committee when we hosted a Laotian family in our congregation. I remember sitting next to him on the front steps of a Norwood apartment on Cottage Street in deep discussion in regard to whether this apartment was the right move for our Laotian family. He also served on the Brotherhood Board. As you can tell, the temple was another family for Will. I think as a rabbi, I especially appreciated his temple presidency because he stuck to the issues of memberships and finances and left the religious decisions up to me. What I especially appreciated is that he would remind me of things I said in a sermon or during a class that he found interesting and relevant. Sometimes we rabbis think that no one remembers a word we say. Will and I were more than just president and rabbi. We were friends. We both love sports. And even though I'm originally from Philadelphia, when I came to live in New England almost 60 years ago, I switched my allegiance to the Boston teams. For a number of years, Will and I would go to a Celtics game together. We had a ball. Will and Marcy were also members of a Temple Beth David Chavarah with Hill and Nan Rhodes, Fred and Edith Bloom, Arthur and Marion Glasgow, and Gary and Gerda Lehman. This was an outstanding group of Temple families that took pride in their commitment to Jewish study, observance, and support of the Temple. Will and Marcy were married for 55 years. Will took great pride in Marcy's work, particularly when she served as the director. They traveled together to California and to Europe, often in connection with Will's work. They loved the beach, especially Old Silver Beach in Falmouth, where Marcy's family summered. I believe Will and Marcy were in much as loved now as they were when they first met at that fraternity party. It was a marriage made in heaven. I think the best way to define the three major areas of service were his clients in the practice of immigration law, the town of Norwood, which he served in so many capacities, and of course, here at Temple Beth David. Through a life of service to others, Will knew that he was also serving God. I don't know how he had time to do so many acts of loving kindness for so many people. Marcy tells me that he had a lot of energy, and he only needed about 6 hours of sleep. He would be up every morning at the crack of dawn, checking his emails and heading out on his work to Boston. Throughout his many good deeds, he never forgot that his primary devotion was to his loving wife, Marcy. She will miss him tremendously, as we all will. But like Marcy, we will never forget Will as a great lawyer, as a contributing citizen of the town of Norwood, and devoted temple leader as long as we live. Amen.
Thank you all for lifting up Will's life and spirit with your memories, and especially to Rabbi Zub, Will's longtime friend and rabbi. Also just want to add a special thank you again to Cantor Rachel Reef Simpson for lifting us up with your voice, and I also share love and condolences from Cantor Emerita Louise Treitman, who is in Rome leading High Holy Day services. Our Beth David family is together at this time. Will be remembered as a mensch and a good and caring person, a leader in our community who cared deeply. It does seem especially hard to find ourselves in the midst of these high holy days, the sacred days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Will died in the hours just before the start of the new Jewish year. And as I shared here on Erev Rosh Hashanah, the post-it note in my machzor, my prayer book, said, "Call up Will Krasnow to lead Kiddush." This will be remembered here in our temple. He had more melodies to give. Yet the psalmist said, "Teach us to number our days that we may attain a heart of wisdom." Will gained wisdom and offered wisdom. He lived each day fully, and this is a blessing. Our tradition teaches in Song of Songs, love is stronger than death. Will's love, his spirit, and his song are eternal. We say Zecher Tzadik Livracha, may the memory of this righteous person be a blessing.
Amen.
I offer these words, a poem by Rabbi Alvin Fine. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength, or strength to weakness, and often back again. From health to sickness, and back we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage, made stage by stage, from birth to death to life everlasting. In just a moment, we will hear the El Maleh Rachamim prayer. And following this prayer, those who are continuing on for burial and at Sharon Memorial can make their way out, and everyone is invited back here at Temple Beth David for a Shiva gathering, a meal of condolence to continue to offer love and support to Will's family. That will be right after burial, and at approximately 2 o'clock, we will gather for a Shiva minyan service here. We will continue to read Will's name as well for Kaddish, starting this Shabbat and Kol Nidre.
Let us rise for the El Maleh prayer. El Maleh Rachamim, Shochen Bamramim, Amtzei Minucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei HaShekhinah, Im Kedoshim U'Taharim, Kezohar HaRakia Ma'asirim, Et Nishmat Ze'ev Ben Levo Ve'edna Shahalach Le'olamo, Bal harachamim yastirehu v'seter kinafav leolamim v'yitzror b'tzrayim et nishmato Adonai hu nachalato v'yanuach b'shalom. Let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen.